Thanks for joining me today. I'm Adriana Linares. I'm a legal technology trainer and consultant, and this is LawTech Connect on Litera TV. With me today is a dear friend, a very cool attorney, Peggy Hoyt. Hi, Peggy.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you? Look at those pictures of those dogs behind you.
Absolutely. Those are my service dogs that I had the pleasure of training.
So, one of my favorite things about you, other than you're just a very cool human, is that you do, would we call it pet law?
You could call it pet law or estate planning with a pet angle to it.
I love that. So tell me a little bit, that's a really unique and cool area of law. And I know you're also very, very passionate about it, which my favorite thing is talking to lawyers who are passionate about the type of practice that they have. And when I meet young lawyers, or sometimes I'm talking to law students and, they say, what are the burgeoning areas of law? What should I get into? I say, get into what you love, because I meet so many attorneys who don't love what they do. And I think that makes it a lot harder because it's such a challenging job, but you love what you do.
I do love what I do. So I love meeting people. I'm insatiably curious and I love pets. So what better thing than to talk to people about their pets? And then from an estate planning perspective, probably one of the few attorneys that actually included in my questionnaire is, do you have any pets? And what plans do you have for your pets if something happens to you? So we get talking about, I now call it estate planning for pets and their people.
I love that. Do you get, I'm sure most of the pets are dogs and cats, but certainly there must be some exotic pets that come across the line every once in a while.
Oh, definitely. Horses are not necessarily exotic, but definitely a little harder to plan for because they can have lives between 25 and 35 years.
Wow.
But I have helped people plan for parrots and tortoises. So some
Which,
really long
which I
lived.
guess, yeah, they probably outlive their owners
Oh,
oftentimes.
always. Yeah,
Always.
always.
That's, as a pet lover, that's something I hadn't considered in thinking. I've occasionally thought a bird would be cool, but I hadn't thought about until right now. I mean, I know they live longer than their owners a lot, but now that I'm thinking about it, it would be sad um, for me if I died, and unless I had someone like you helping me figure out what to do with my pets afterwards.
Yeah,
So
so there's lots of options for planning for your pets. Pet trusts are now valid in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. So there's no excuse for people not to plan for their pets. And in that vein, I created a not-for-profit organization called Animal Care Trust USA that helps provide education and pet trust counseling for pet parents that want to plan for their pets.
is it animaltrustusa.com?
Animalcaretrustusa.org.
Org. Oh, that makes sense. That's great. And when it comes to dealing with, let's see, how can I put this delicately? Maybe people who are separating and having to deal with their pets. Do you help with that too?
Not really, but I have done a presentation on what we call pet nuptials and dog force. Um, because we do encourage people when they're in a relationship, if they get a pet, to have a written agreement about how that pet will be provided for in the event that that relationship deteriorates. So that you're not trying to have those conversations at a time when it's inconvenient. And of course, family law doesn't address what to do about the pets, particularly. They're more concerned about what to do with the two-legged kids, not the four-legged kids.
Right.
So yeah, that can be a real source of conflict between people if they break up and they don't have an agreement in advance how to deal with the pets.
You do a lot of education and informational services when it comes to this area. You have a podcast. You're going to do a cool webinar next week. Tell me about how doing that. I know you do it because you love it, but certainly that must help you get business. And I'm always interested in hearing about how attorneys market their services in unique and different ways too.
Well, of course it helps me get business. So I started out writing books on specific topics, and books really are just a great way to have a calling card that can kind of put a spotlight on your credentials. So My first book was called All My Children Wear Fur Coats, How to Leave a Legacy for Your Pet. And then from that, I created what we're now calling the podcast, called All My Children Wear Fur Coats. And then I meet some really great people, and they tell two friends, and they tell two friends. And so it's a good way to build word of mouth. It gives you something to talk about on social media. You can have a specific website for that purpose. You can do a newsletter. And then I met a girl recently that we agreed to do a program that we're calling Petiquette, tips to help you and your pet become great co-workers and avoid the faux pas. Since so many people are working from home and their pets are participating in Zoom conferences.
Whether the humans like it or not.
Exactly.
And so what kind of tips are you going to give that help? I mean, other than caging your animal, which does not sound like some of my animals would never have been quiet in that sort of situation, would have been worse.
Yes. So some of it is maybe just some conditioning for your pet, maybe having a bed next to your chair where they can lie and maybe be comfortable, maybe keep some treats on your desk so that you can reach down periodically and give your pet a treat. Of course, you can't prevent the Amazon delivery guy from ringing the doorbell while you're in the middle. Some pets maybe have to be put up. And then as I was recording some faux pas the other day, one of my pets actually walked right across the conference room table as if it was planned.
That's hilarious. Tell me about this other very interesting area of practice that I did not know you had, which is cryonics. That's
Cryonics, yeah.
This is crazy cryonics.
It is crazy cryonics. So cryonics is people that want to be frozen when they die, with the expectation that at some point in the future, we would have the medical technology to revive that person, cure any diseases that they might have had. And of course, when they are revived, they want to come back to a pile of money. So we've created a trust planning process called a personal revival trust.
Wow. And did you invent that, or is that a thing?
Well, it's kind of an invented thing. It's based on dynasty trust philosophies, because certainly a trust could last a really long time if somebody were in a frozen state, because we don't currently have that medical technology. But it's a really, it's a small niche, really. Not huge numbers of people signing up for cryonics, but for those that are, they're very serious about it. And of course, we want to be able to provide them with the best legal advice possible.
What's the average age of the person that comes in with that idea in their head? I'm just curious, is that older people, younger people?
Both, actually. I have a number of single males who are in their 30s. So it appeals to kind of the technology-oriented male.
Very interesting.
And then I have clients who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who I would say that most cryonicists are really true life extensionists. They're people that they don't want to die, they just want to live forever.
And then so many questions. Where are the facilities that store the bodies of these humans that are frozen?
There's two. There's one in Phoenix, Arizona, and there's one in Michigan.
No kidding. Do you have any idea how many they have in there?
There's several thousands.
That was my question. Like, it can't be hundreds. It'd have to be more, because this idea has been around a long time. I mean, of course, Walt Disney, we all think he's somewhere frozen in time. So I was thinking thousands, but then if you had told me millions, I would think, wow, that's really an interesting esoteric.
Yeah, definitely not millions, but yes, thousands. And currently finishing up a book right now with a friend called the Cryonics Estate Planning Handbook. Maybe you can take it with you.
That's unbelievable. And okay, so one more question on this. What was it going to be? Oh, I mean, if someday the technology is developed, or some way of bringing someone back, how do you know, or maybe you don't know, but what do you say when someone, like, I walked in and I said, well, what if it's 100 years? How do I know that the laws from my cryonics plan will still be, or that my wishes will still be valid 100 years from now. That's probably a general question about law, but specifically something so out there.
Yeah, so we don't know specifically, but dynasty trust principles have been around for a long time. So you could create a trust today for future generations that are yet unborn. So we're taking those same concepts and applying it to the possibility of a person being revived at some point in the future. Obviously, there's a lot of legal questions surrounding this, because if a person becomes legally dead, how do you reverse that death certificate process and now have them legally alive again?
That's amazing. That's so interesting. So your two worlds.
Yeah, I just like thinking about unique areas of the law that maybe are a little untested.
You must really stretch your brain and get into some really just, I don't know, creative ways of solving problems, which is of course what all lawyers do for the most part, but I really love this idea. That's just amazing. So from fluffy and adorable to cold and frozen.
Yeah.
It's just so funny. But your main practice of law is estate planning and family law too. Do you guys do?
No, we do wills, trusts, and estates and elder law.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your office and the size of it, and your partner who you've had for a very long time, and he's very cool as well and has some unique background. Was he military?
He is. He's still in the active reserves, and he has been in the Navy now for 27 years.
Wow.
So, and we've been practicing together for 21 years. We celebrated that in September.
Oh,
and
cool.
We have 4 lawyers on our team and about 10 support staff and team members. And many of our team members have been here 19 years, 15 years, 12 years.
That's wonderful. And tell me, so remind me too, you all have a standalone building. Do you own it?
Yes, we do.
Yep.
So we have a standalone building and we live there. So we try to have it be homey and welcoming in that regard. So there's, 14 of us working in 3,500 square feet. So pretty close quarters, but I will say that we have worked continuously since March, and all is well.
I was going to ask you, did you send everyone home? And we're going to talk about technology next because you run a pretty tech-enabled law firm. Did you send everyone home to work, or are you in the position where, because it is your own building and everyone has their own offices, you were able to continue working from the office? Or did you give people a choice?
Well, some people we gave a choice, and some people really didn't have a choice because they had children that were home. So they had to stay home with kids. We had 4 attorneys and 2 paralegals that were here continuously throughout that time period. And those were paralegals that didn't want to stay home and didn't have to be home with their kids. For the ones that had to be home, obviously we allowed them to work from home, and Zoom is a wonderful thing, and so is Box and other pieces of technology, Clio. So we really didn't miss a beat, actually.
And did you find transitioning to online meetings? Because I know that part of a practice like yours, plus the lovely space that you have and how welcoming it is, part of your business is having your clients come and see you in the office. Did you find that, and tell me too if more of them are a little older, because typically for estate planning lawyers, what I always hear is, well, I have an older clientele, they're not going to adopt the technology that much, they're not going to use a portal, they're not going to go to video. But then as it turns out, for me, oddly enough, I find that those clients, because they've been dealing with doctors and maybe a lot of real estate transactions as they're retiring and moving, they're used to using online meeting services and portals. So tell me about your experience with your types of clients.
So for a while, we did a lot of Zoom conferences. We were really encouraging all of our clients to do the meet and greet, initial consultation by Zoom. And we did a lot of design meetings by Zoom. Then we did a lot of review meetings by Zoom. We need to see clients in person for what we call signing ceremonies. So we were doing a lot of those in the parking lot. But now people, they're wanting to come back into the office. So we now have reopened all of our 4 conference rooms. We were lucky because we have our own space. We had
Yeah.
2 really big conference rooms that we were able to use continuously. And we still use Zoom whenever anybody wants to, though. It's become, I guess, the new way of doing business, and
Yeah.
everybody seems to have a Zoom account. If they don't, a lot of times for our clients, their kids are involved in the planning process, so the kids have the technology aptitude to be able to pull that off.
That's great. I know you do. So you mentioned Clio. So you're all are a Clio law firm and Zoom. What other technologies are important to the practice? Do you use estate planning software?
We do use estate planning software through both Wealth Counsel and Elder Counsel. We use Constant Contact, of course, as a way of communicating with large groups of people.
I'm going to ask you about your marketing in a minute. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And what about as so far as hardware? You know, when you had to send everyone home, did they already have laptops? Do you have everyone on desktops, or was it sort of just go home and work from your own computer?
Most everybody had their own computers. If they didn't, we were able to either send them home with their desktop that they had at the office, just let them take it home. Or so, and even I had to do some finagling to set up my 2 screens at home and got a new laptop. And so I think we're all pretty efficient from home at this point if we need to be.
So you do a lot of marketing, and I know you do a lot of newsletters as well as podcasts and presentations, and you're always out there just hustling for business, Peggy. I know that's why you're so successful. So tell me why those newsletters, which I know has always been a big thing for you. Oh, and are you still doing send out cards?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your overall marketing plan, which I know is extensive and probably very systemized and very organized.
Well, we do send out a newsletter on a regular periodic basis. And basically the newsletter is designed to provide education, also to let people know about our upcoming educational workshops. And we probably do anywhere between 5 and 10 workshops on a monthly basis on a variety of topics that clients might be interested in. This year, we did our 12th annual special needs conference, and we did it entirely by Zoom. And we had a tremendous turnout, and
wow.
I think people enjoyed that. We're very active on social media, Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, not so much on Instagram or Pinterest or some of those other platforms. But we are always communicating with our clients in some way, shape, or form. And we really have built our practice on a foundation of education, knowing that an educated client is generally a better client.
Do you have someone in the office dedicated to social media, or does everybody do a little bit?
No, we do have somebody who's dedicated to that. So one of our team members is our marketing point person. So she does all of the advertising, the social media, the setting up of the conferences, the coordination, the follow-up, all of those things.
That's pretty awesome. And then tell me too, when it comes to your website, which you have a nice website too, and it's packed with information and your books and all kinds of stuff. Do you handle that in-house as well, same person, or do you outsource that?
So she also handles the updating of that, but we outsource a lot of the content that goes on to that. We have some blog writers, and then of course I feel like I end up rewriting those. So more that it sounds like our voice, and not somebody else's. But it's very helpful. We did 150 quick answer videos that are all available on our website. So if you have a quick question about estate planning or elder law, you can probably find the answer on our website.
That's amazing. A lot of attorneys don't want to do things like that because they feel like they're giving away the farm, and it prevents people from calling or reaching out because they got the answer they needed. Obviously, you're going to tell me that's not the case. So tell them why that's not the case.
Well, we don't think it's the case because you can never tell anybody everything that they need to know. You want to tell them enough so that they know that you know but that you also want to make it clear that there's a lot of things that they don't know, and that's really why they should be working with a professional.
So between a lot of your public speaking, your outreach, your podcast, your marketing, you also do a lot of work with the voluntary bars, with the Florida bar and the solo small firm section of the bar. Can you also speak to just why that type of involvement is important, not just for you, because I know that you love doing all that, but too, as far as business development, showcasing your expertise and really getting the name of you and your law firm out there, how that helps?
Both my partner and I have been very actively involved with the voluntary bar sections, from the elder law section, the solo small firm section, and the animal law section. Um, Bryan has been the chair of the elder law section. I've been the chair of both the solo small firm and the animal law section. But it helps you build your networks of people that you know, that can introduce you to other people, that just kind of help spread the word. We never shy away from sharing information with other people, including young lawyers. We remember when we were young lawyers and needed mentors, and people that we could rely on for information.
The animal law section is new-ish. I mean, and what is it, 4 years old now, maybe?
It's 4 or 5 years old now. So yeah, it's kind of new-ish. We started out as a committee before we became a section, but now we're really one of the most active sections of the bar, and probably one of the fastest growing. And we certainly have the most interesting practice area, animal law. And animal law actually touches every single other area of the law, from contract law to real estate law to disability law to family law to estate planning. I mean, entertainment law, you name it, there's an animal law aspect to that.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and we're a fun section, because we do things like llama kissing booths and goat yoga and puppy pits and all kinds of things to engage the bar in, you know, being kind people because they love animals.
I just love passion projects like that. And I just think it's so great. And of course, who doesn't want to support the animals? I'm a huge animal lover. You know that. I can't have them the way I wish I could because I travel so much, but it's just such a wonderful area. I love it. I would love it if I was you.
I cannot complain. I think I get to do what I love every single day. Love talking about pets, particularly right now. It seems like every organization who has anything to do with pets right now is just hungry for information about estate planning for pets. So I'm doing more and more and more workshops all the time, which is great.
Well, of course. I mean, that type of work just coming at you is, I mean, who doesn't want that? So finish up we've got a few minutes left, about 4 or 5 minutes. Tell me about, well, this is, you kind of just answered the question, but I'll ask it again. If a young attorney or maybe an attorney who is looking to change their focus of practice came to you and said, hey, I hear you do animal law. That sounds kind of neat. Would I like it? Do you like it? What's the thing?
So if a young attorney came to me and said that, I would, number one, encourage them to join the animal law section, because then they would get a lot of exposure to the different areas of animal law. We have 10 or 15 different committees that people could be on, from wildlife law to companion animal law to the equine law committee, to gosh, I can't even think of all the different ones that we have, but we have a lot of different opportunities for people to participate. We do a lot of webinars. We have one coming up on coral reefs. We participate in a lot of initiatives that people wouldn't think of. We were very active in Amendment 13 when we were passing that in Florida and eliminating greyhound racing.
Great. You know, I was going to ask you specifically about that one, so I'm glad you brought it up, because that was, just quickly explain, obviously we had greyhound racing in Florida, like probably a lot of other states do, and of course it's a business and an industry and a lot of jobs and the whole business, so there was a big battle to bring an end to that, and thanks to the efforts of people like you, 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago now, and then there was a phase out.
Yep.
We've had a lot of constitutional challenges to the amendment to the Constitution, which bans greyhound racing. People, predicted all this doom and gloom for the dogs, which I don't think really came about, because I think there was a lot of people out there willing to adopt the dogs that were coming out of the industry. A lot of dogs were coming out of the industry anyway because they retire at a pretty young age. So yes, the animal law section was very actively involved in that. And as a section, one of the things that we're allowed to do is support legislation that we think is important. So one of the pieces of legislation that is going forward in kind of a different way right now is that involving iguanas and lizards and pythons.
Oh my God. I think I just read over the weekend that the UK banned animals in parks or zoos, or maybe it was just, I'll have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure it was a picture of an orca. So I don't know if it was just, do you know what I'm talking about?
I did not see that, but maybe it was marine mammals.
It might be, but I know that's a big question all the time that we get, especially in Orlando, Florida, because of SeaWorld. So I guess my follow-up question is, what are y'all working on next?
Well, there's some domestic violence bills that have been out there. As I mentioned, there's the iguana, lizard, and python legislation that's been pending. We're trying to ban puppy mills nationwide. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing?
Yes, it kind of would.
Yeah, and the retail sale of puppies. So there's always something on the horizon. Bears are a big topic in Florida as well.
Sure, yeah. Coyotes right now, I know we're having this coyote outbreak in certain parts of Orlando, and there's a big argument whether it's the city or the not the forest department, the agriculture maybe department, and who handles that. So there's just so much going on. Well, it's such admirable work. I love it.
Yeah, so there's always an issue, and as you probably know, I was raised in animal welfare. My dad was the president of the Humane Society of the United States when I was growing up. So these issues have always been important to me. Always had an endless stream of potential topics for, writing papers or doing little speaking things as a kid, and always been fascinated by all of the animal law issues. Adopted a couple of Mustangs a few years ago. From the Bureau of Land Management adoption program. And maybe one of the things we'll take on in the future, who knows, might be horse racing next. Who knows?
Interesting. That's amazing. Well, before I let you go, make sure you tell everybody how they can find, friend, and follow you and all your very cool journeys across the weird practices of law, cryonics, and pet law.
Yeah, so I am on Facebook as Peggy Hoyt, or All My Children Wear Fur Coats, or Animal Care Trust USA, or you can find me on Twitter, same thing, Peggy Hoyt, or Kids in Fur Coats. So lots of ways to find me and follow what we're doing. And if you are interested, join us, join your animal law section of your various bar organizations.
I love that. Well, Peggy, I know you had a meeting that you stepped out of in order to come chat with me, and I really appreciate it. I just love your passion, and you're just such a good human, such a good lawyer. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Adriana. It was always fun to chat about things we love.
I know it is. Have a great afternoon.
Yeah, you too.